When attending a concert, you're looking for more than just a good performance. What you really want, deep down, is a memorable experience. For better or worse, that's just what fans attending these concerts got as witnesses to history. Forget Times Square. Copacabana Beach in Rio de Janeiro is the place to be when it comes to ringing in the new year. For millions of Brazilians, it's an annual tradition to hit the ocean side to party, welcome the new year with a grand fireworks display, and then enjoy a concert by an iconic act. The cherry on top of this sweet celebration, the A-lister concert, is always free. Rod Stewart was tapped for the gig in 1994, and that year, the people of Brazil were even more celebrity than usual. According to Guinness World Records, the attendance for Stewart's concert swelled because Brazil was in the midst of a national celebration after winning the FIFA World Cup. Estimates peg the figure of attendees at somewhere between 3.5 million and 4.2 million people, all watching along a 3-mile stretch of sandy beach. When The Who took the stage at Tampa's Ford Amphitheater on March 13, 2007, the audience was treated to a slice of history, though they probably would have just preferred seeing a regular concert. Things started off great when the band came out and launched into one of its most famous songs, I Can't Explain, but they didn't get much further than that. Singer Roger Daltrey knew he was dealing with a case of bronchitis, but he realized a little too late that it was too severe to allow him to sing. He wasn't even able to get a single note out, and since singing is fairly important for, a lead singer, guitarist Pete Townsend cut himself off mid-riff and announced that the concert was over. Guinness World Records later officially recognized the show as the shortest music concert of all time at just 13 seconds, which was neat, but not what the fans had paid to see. Fortunately, The Who made it up to them by playing a show 11 days later. It turns out that The Who was setting records long before Roger Daltrey was battling bronchitis. During their prime peak period in the 70s, they were considered one of the loudest bands traversing the rock and roll touring circuit, and in 1976, they decided they wanted the title all to themselves. On May 31st, they invited authorities from Guinness World Records to their show at the Valley, an outdoor stadium in London. According to their equipment, the band's loudest output registered at 126 decibels from a space of about 100 feet away from speakers. That's slightly noisier than thunder, but for a sustained period of time, enough to cause permanent and significant hearing damage to attendees. It was more than enough to earn The Who the official record for loudest concert, and their fans the title of fan base with the most hearing aids. Having been in existence for over 4 decades, Metallica has reached a level of global popularity that most bands can only dream of. Their music has earned them fans all over the world, and the band has done its best to give everyone an opportunity to rock out to them in person. Metallica had already played all of Earth's 6 inhabited continents by 2006, but in 2013, they apparently pointed at a globe and said, "What about this cold-looking place at the bottom?" So on December 8, 2013, Metallica did what no other musical act had done before or since by playing in Antarctica, home to penguins and rotating teams of scientists and researchers. The band played a specially arranged 60-minute concert called Freeze 'Em All at the Carlini Station, in front of an audience of 120 resident scientists and flown-in contest winners.
Not only has Metallica actually played all 7 continents now, we've played all 7 continents in 2013.
It earned them the distinction of the only band to perform on all 7 continents, as well as a new devoted fandom among penguins with a desire to dance. Say what you will about Jared Leto, but when the guy commits to something, he's in it 300%.
There was a point where he went away and he was replaced slowly and surely by the Joker.
When he's not taking home Oscars or terrorizing co-stars as the Joker, Leto is the lead singer for the rock band 30 Seconds to Mars. And in November 2009, the rest of the band decided to match their frontman's commitment and method act as a band that never stopped playing gigs. The band set out on tour to promote their album This Is War, and they simply didn't stop for well over 2 years. After they left the stage of New York City's Hammerstein Ballroom in December 2011, they had played 309 total concerts, finishing the Guinness-recognized accomplishment of longest concert tour by a rock band. When heavy metal band Manowar takes the stage in their usual loincloths and leather vests, they look like they're ready to take on any enemy that comes their way. And in July 2008, at the Kaliakra Rock Festival in Kavarna, Bulgaria, they took on life's greatest nemesis: time. Thanks to a massive catalog of songs that's been building since the early 80s, Manowar took the stage with a setlist of over 40 songs and a goal of making history. 5 hours and 1 minute later, they walked off with a record for longest heavy metal concert ever. We'll now take a moment of silence in memory of all the sore necks that surely resulted from hours of headbanging. The pop-punk band Busted sold millions of albums in its native UK in the early 2000s, but after singer Charlie Simpson moved on to become an acoustic solo act, he set out to bust something else, namely, the record for playing the coldest concert. To accomplish his frosty goal, he utilized Oymyakon, a tiny town in the northern Russian region of Siberia that didn't offer electricity or running water to its 472 residents. Oh, and then there's this.
We're currently in Oymyakon in Siberia, which is the coldest inhabited place on the planet.
Adhering to Guinness's rules that the show had to last for at least 15 minutes in front of at least 10 spectators, Simpson pulled off the feat in minus 30 degrees Celsius, minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Hopefully he snuck a cup of hot cocoa into town with him as a reward. Great White was a moderately popular band in the hair metal scene of the late 80s and early 90s, but by the early 2000s, the group was reduced to performing in smaller venues, like the Station in West Warwick, Rhode Island. For its February 20th, 2003 show, Great White's tour manager tried to recreate the band's big arena shows of yore by rigging up some stage pyrotechnics at the beginning of the set, which the station management claimed they had forbidden on account of it being a fire hazard. Sadly, the pyrotechnics did exactly what was feared, and a fire immediately began.
Unfortunately, the building was so old, the fire just overtook faster than they could do anything.
As the room quickly filled with flames, the band left via a stage door. 4 posted exits should have allowed the 400 panicked fans to escape, but a bouncer disallowed use of the stage door used by the band, and 2 others had been quietly barricaded, leaving just one usable exit. Fans crushed up against each other in their haste, and many became trapped inside while the fire raged. When it was all over, 100 people died as a result, and the show earned the devastatingly dubious honor of deadliest concert in recorded history. A single concert can be grueling for any performer, so packing 65 into the span of 24 hours is an accomplishment worthy of a world record. Norwegian musician Helge Toft's tour may have only stretched to being in or near the city of Haugesund, Norway, but starting the night of June 21, 2012 and continuing into the next day, Toft and his band took the stage of any venue they could plant their equipment on. No word yet on whether this is a result of a Toft megafan making a special birthday wish to see the musician as many times as possible, but regardless, it was surely an experience. Surprisingly, the world record for most languages sung in a concert has seen a bit of a healthy competition. In August 2021, 16-year-old singer Sucheta Satish of India set a Guinness-recognized record by performing in a total of 120 different languages over many hours. Not long after, however, she was literally one-upped by singer Manjushree Vasant Oak with a 121-language concert. In November 2023, Satish took back her world record with an act of advocacy. Satish is a climate change awareness advocate, and in the lead-up to the COP28, a climate change summit held in Dubai, Satish staged the Concert for Climate at the Indian Consulate Auditorium. Across a 9-hour show, Satish sang in 140 distinct languages, a nod to the representatives of 140 nations set to attend the summit. On December 6, 1969, the Rolling Stones played a concert that was both record-setting and tragic, but for 2 markedly different events. Over the course of the 6-hour event at the Altamont Speedway in Tracy, California, about 300,000 people attended, and of those thousands of fans, 4 were expectant mothers, who gave birth at the event. Not only did those babies bring the new total to 300,004, but Guinness later recognized the record-setting event as the most births at a music concert. Unfortunately, however, the concert is better known for an act of violence. Individuals associated with the Hells Angels, a notorious biker gang, had been hired to work as the venue's security team. As the Stones were closing out the show, a member of the Hells Angels stabbed 18-year-old concertgoer Meredith Hunter in front of the stage. Hunter later died from his injuries. The band was unaware of what happened until later, when they were shown the footage that was being shot for a documentary about the concert. Be careful what you ask for. In August 2004, fans of The Cure asked the band for an encore at the conclusion of its concert at the Everett Events Center near Seattle. The group made sure to oblige them, and then they did it again. And again. And then 2 more times. In total, it was 5 encores, the equivalent of 12 songs, and it became a Guinness authenticated record for most encores. But it was eventually beaten a week later by The Cure. After their show at the Palacio de los Deportes in Mexico City, they also finished out with 5 encores that offered 14 songs. So the band essentially did an encore to their record-setting encore, which is hilarious, except they weren't done. They topped themselves again in September 2005 while playing in Istanbul, Turkey, again coming out for 5 encores and playing 15 bonus songs. Talk about getting your money's worth. The average American might not know who Vasco Rossi is, but it's safe to say that he's won over his home country of Italy. After selling 35 million albums over 4 decades, Rossi firmly established himself as the country's dominant musical presence, and in 2017, he set out to make it official. He promoted his show at Enzo Ferrari Park in the city of Modena with the intent to set a record to play the most attended concert ever, at least in terms of ticket holders. After a total of 220,000 tickets were purchased and used, another 5,000 tickets were given out for free to special and certain audience members. In the end, Rossi achieved his goal by performing in front of an official record of 225,173 fans. Pink Floyd's legendary album The Wall has been blowing people's minds since 1979, but 11 years after its release, it made its mark on the record books. Bassist Roger Waters led the development of the lyrics, music, and story of the album, and after he left Pink Floyd, Waters found some inspiration to stage his concept album as a theatrical event. In July 1990, Waters performed at Potsdamer Platz in Berlin. The Berlin Wall, separating Free West Berlin from Communist East Berlin, had been torn down less than a year earlier, and it had stood right near where Waters and his guests performed. By the end of the show, the concert required the labor of 600 performers. The 200,000 or so spectators became part of the show too, invited to help build up and tear down Waters' wall of foam bricks, resulting in a world record for the number of performers in a concert. As the legend goes, mixing rowdy rock band Van Halen with brown M&Ms was a recipe for disaster. It's a ridiculous rumor, of course, and one that turns out to be absolutely true. Van Halen had an intricately detailed concert rider, or a list of requirements and precise instructions for promoters and area staff contracted to stage the band's shows. To make sure all that gear was set up correctly by potentially inexperienced local crews, singer David Lee Roth concocted the odd request in the rider. If he went backstage and saw brown M&Ms in the bowl they requested, he'd instantly know that the staff hadn't thoroughly read their requirements and that it might not be safe to play the show. Regardless of the reasoning behind it, Van Halen's rider is still the longest and most complicated, as certified by Guinness World Records. When Def Leppard released a greatest hits album in 1995, they decided that the best way to promote the album was to simply tour all over the world in a single day.
It was the band's idea to do something weird and wacky. We haven't actually had the chance to nail this person's head to a coffee table yet, who actually came up with this.
Setting out to etch their names in the history books, Def Leppard began the day of October 23, 1995, with a show in Tangier, Morocco that started at just past midnight Tangier time. After the hour or so performance, the band hopped on a plane to travel from Northern Africa to Europe, where it played a second gig in London. Then the group crossed the pond over to Canada, where they completed the trifecta of concerts in Vancouver around 11:30 p.m. Canada time. When 200 lucky winners of a Sony Ericsson promotional contest boarded a plane in 2007, they weren't climbing on board to fly to a Jamiroquai concert. They were entering the venue itself. Waiting for them on board was the band and a small stage made specifically for the flight. The prize flight flew attendees from Munich to Athens, and once the plane hit 35,000 feet, Jamiroquai started the concert in the sky, securing the Guinness World Record for performance at the highest altitude. One of the most successful boy bands of the phenomenon that is K-pop is the group EXO, and nowhere is their popularity more apparent than in its nation of origin. In 2014, EXO set out on its first ever headlining concert tour, and tickets for the group's initial shows in Seoul went on sale on April 16th of that year. Lazy fans who waited 2 whole seconds after ticket sales went live missed out, as it only took 1.47 seconds for the show to completely sell out. A few years later in 2017, fans apparently worked on their clicking speed for EXO's 4th tour. All 67,000 tickets disappeared in the literal blink of an eye, just 0.2 seconds after they went up for sale, setting a new record for the fastest concert to sell out. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour dominated headlines with its massive success, but there's one infamous accomplishment that flew under the radar: the hottest outdoor concert in history. When Swift took the stage at the Nilton Santos Stadium in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the outdoor temperature was already well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Add in the massive crowd tightly packed together, and you've got a recipe for disaster. which unfortunately occurred with the death of 23-year-old Ana Clara Benavides Machado. In addition to the extreme heat, fans were prevented from bringing in outside water, personal fans, and shade umbrellas, all of which culminated in Machado fainting from heat exhaustion and ultimately being pronounced dead at a hospital from cardiorespiratory arrest. At the hottest point in the day, the temperature hit 138 degrees Fahrenheit, resulting in 1,000 other fans receiving medical assistance for passing out and dehydration.
You couldn't bring water past security?
Couldn't bring water past security. It was scary to see people faint around you.
Before tragedy struck Taylor Swift's Brazil concert in November of 2023, another of her Eras Tour shows set a different record earlier that year, this time by subjecting the Earth itself to her will. On July 22nd and July 23rd, sold-out crowds of over 72,000 people packed Seattle's Lumen Field. During the shows, local earthquake researchers noticed an uptick in seismic activity in the exact area where Lumen Field stands. According to their equipment, an earthquake with a magnitude of 2.3 occurred because of the Swift shows.
People are dancing, which means they're dancing in rhythm. And when you move in rhythm, those signals can amplify.
Bruce Springsteen and Garth Brooks also had shows that registered as minor earthquakes, but it's only the unstoppable force of Swifties that's listed by Guinness World Records for greatest seismic activity caused by a music concert. Singer-rapper Travis Scott's Utopia Circus Maximus tour crisscrossed North America in 2023, and in a one-week period, he performed 2 shows at the American Airlines Center in Dallas and 2 at Ball Arena in Denver. With those performances, Scott set a new concert industry record by selling more than $1 million of merchandise at each stop. Now, to get specific, that's the record for the highest dollar amount of merchandise sold at tour stops. The record for the most lucrative merchandise sales across an entire tour belongs to the world's most famous Kansas City Chiefs fan, Taylor Swift. The Eras Tour raked in a total of $200 million in the sales of officially sanctioned Swift-branded merchandise on the premises of those shows. Good thing too, since the show only made a measly $1 billion in ticket sales.